that it's pretty straightforward. There weren't lengthy episodes of people angsting over other people. It was Wynn makes it clear to Kara that he's interested. Kara says no, and that was that. That was done. And Kara's relationship with Lucy is great. They're friends. They're leaning on each other. That's become a strong friendship. You know, there was no angst or difficulty there. It just was got over with, and then we move on to the next thing. I respect that kind of willingness to abandon a potential plot point to milk and just move on to some actual adventure. Actually, thank you.
You realize they're moving to the CW, right?
We'll talk a little bit more about that later. I've got a question down here on the left.
Yeah, I'm more of a statement on Wynn. I'm not at all convinced that he is over Kara at all. He, from the get-go, was so over the barrel about her, and I don't think that he's entirely let go of those feelings, and I think it's a possible movement to strengthen his character. I personally find him to be one of the more interesting characters on the show because of that unrequited love. And where is that going to go?
Interesting. Anyone got any comments on that one?
I don't know if it was a foreshadowing, but the one romantic interest he had outside of Kara turned into a villain. You just feel kind of bad for him. There's a lot of pity here and there for him, and so it's almost as if he's doomed to, any other relationship or romantic relationship for him may not work out. I don't know.
His dad's the toy man.
Did we have any other hands up that I missed there? Yeah.
Yeah. When I first watched the pilot, I actually thought the pilot was terrible, and I almost quit watching the show just because I don't think it presented the origin story very well. It kind of like, it begins with a little narrative at the beginning when she's already on Earth, and I thought that was, I'd rather, show not tell, I guess. So I thought it was a terrible pilot. What do you think about that?
I really liked it. I tell you what, I liked Supergirl from seeing the first trailer of it. When I saw the trailer and saw the setup of who she is and the playoff with the bumbling Kara and in the appearance as Supergirl, I thought, I have to watch this show. It was kind of immediate for me. There was never any hesitation. What about you guys?
I think I was good with the kind of hurry up and a quick voiceover at the episode 1. Here's how we get to where we are now, because we don't always need the slow build-up, especially in this era of we get a new superhero movie or TV show like every 3.5 weeks. And so do we need an hour and a half of Peter Parker bumbling through and then here comes the spider, or can we just, okay, we get it, he's Spider-Man, right? And I think we're at a level now of these superhero shows where, okay, she's going to be Supergirl, let's get there. And I was fine with that. It was a very different version of the origin, at least that I'm aware of. Certainly different from the classic comics version as far as the timeline of how she left Krypton and how she got here. They kind of played with that a little bit, but that was fine. So I was good with that.
I think it's partially a function of this being a show on network television. I mean, we look at us and the audience in this room, and not representative maybe of network television audiences in general. Maybe might not have the patience for that kind of more complicated setup that some of us would appreciate and enjoy.
Well, I think that as an author, I think that the show don't tell is it's an overused piece of advice that everybody's nowadays talking show don't tell. And really, if you talk to anybody who's been published, it's like sometimes you just gotta tell. You can give me 10 hours worth of description on what her spaceship looked like, or you could say she came to Earth on a spaceship. Now let's get to the story. So yeah, I think I'm going to have to respectfully disagree on that too.
On the front row then.
I wanted to say, as someone who's done a lot of historian work in pulp and comics, was a time when origin stories were not the norm. Batman went 6 issues without an origin story. The Shadow went 120 novels without an origin story because the writer wanted him mysterious. There have been a number of movies. The last 2 Lone Ranger movies were destroyed by being origin stories. The Shadow movie gave him a new origin and really, I think, sabotaged the movie. Green Lantern had a burdensome origin. They spent the first 10 minutes before introducing the character, and then the character had to learn the origin and the background. All had to be repeated for Hal Jordan. You know, there was a long time when the origin was the merest excuse. We, the entire American public, knows the origin of Krypton. And one of the problems with the first Superman radio show in 1940, Superman doesn't appear in the first episode. It's the story of Krypton. He appears at the very end of the second episode. So one of the things when you are introducing a new television series, you want to give a sampling of what an episode is going to be, to introduce the characters, the cast. By the way, I think the most surprisingly, in a good way, character development on the show was Cat Grant, who seemed like such a one-note character and just such a nemesis or annoyance in the first episode, and who was deepened a lot and became a much more fully realized character. But you have a choice. You do an origin story, which in the case of Krypton has to be a totally different cast with a child actor playing the role, or you take it for granted that everyone knows the origin and you just move on. You had to give an explanation as to why she's younger than Superman. And they found a way to do that without spending a whole lot of time explaining Argo City and why Argo City survived. People, the general public, not comic book people, didn't know Argo City. They knew the Phantom Zone from, you know, Superman movies, the Chris Reeve movies. So I think they did what was totally introduce the cast, introduce the character things. And if you're spending the time on Krypton and everyone knows the story, you wouldn't, you know, you have that one chance with the first show to show what the show is going to be like. And if you spend it on an origin story that everyone knows, you have to hope that everyone comes to the second.
I believe
I couldn't agree with him more.
For this. Batman Begins did it to all of us.
Which was almost a scene-for-scene remake of the Shadow movie from 1994.
It was basically an origin story.
So let's talk a little bit about the themes that are running through the show. Do any of you have a favourite theme in Supergirl? Something that really resonates with you that you'd like to share with us?
Look at
Yeah, we're taking Dana, but we're looking at you. I don't know why, but we really are. Yeah.
Be nice.
I think you and I were talking about this, the theme of, well, and I think it's been touched on kind of, you know, the theme of the family and how, you know, you were saying that runs through all the CW shows. Yeah.
That's probably my favorite theme.
Yeah. Just the theme of relationships and how they relate to their group dynamic. It's really one of my favorites.
There's, I mean, so much of the show is optimistic. The relationships are